Yeah, good afternoon from Munich. Welcome to our introduction to certCardio certEntra. My name is Gunnar Jakobsson. I'm the CEO and founder of certCardio. And yeah, I will give you an introduction in the next 30 minutes. You have the option to ask questions on the top right, I think. There's a button. And now let's look at the contents of this session. So first I will explain you what is the need for user certificates in Azure for MIME and for certificate-based authentication. Then I will explain briefly how the automation of certificate processes will work with certEntra. Then we will go into different options like CA backends, certificate templates. I will show you an overview of the web configurator, and I will explain how you can do basic certificate management and user self-services. Yeah, at the end, I will explain how you can deploy certEntra in your Azure environment. And at the end, I will also give you a summary of what we discussed. So let's start with Microsoft Azure, especially with Entra ID and Intune. Entra ID is a Microsoft service for user and access management in the Azure cloud. Formerly, before Entra ID, it was called Microsoft Azure Active Directory. This was misleading, and so Microsoft changed the name. It can be used for authentication of many services like M365, Dynamics, Azure, and other services. It supports many authentication methods, highly scalable and integratable, meets typical security and compliance requirements in your company, and Entra ID is a core component of Microsoft Zero Trust framework. So on the other side, we have Intune. Intune is Microsoft's cloud service for managing devices and applications in Azure. It was deployed in 2011. And yeah, it covers management of policies and profiles, and it can also be used for the distribution of certificates for devices and for users. So how does a typical Azure environment look like? So you have Entra ID, where you have your users managed. Then you have Intune, where you manage your devices, Windows devices, Android, Apple devices. Yeah, and typically cloud users then are using M365, basically Outlook, and Exchange Online for the transmission of emails. So this is a typical environment. Yeah, and we have challenges here when we talk about the exchange of emails. We have problems with confidentiality and authentication, and also the authentication of users in a cloud environment is a challenge. So now let's look first into the M365 encryption options. So Outlook offers two options. One is the native option of Microsoft, which is called Purview Message Encryption. Previously, it was called OME. And the other option is the standardized MIME feature, where we have standards and which is independent from Microsoft. Yeah, below I've listed some drawbacks of this Purview message encryption versus MIME. The one thing is, I already told it, is that it is a proprietary mechanism. It's not standardized. It provides no support for digital signatures. So you cannot verify where the email came from, who's the originator of that email. Is the email not modified, manipulated? And we have no real end-to-end encryption because Microsoft re-encrypts all these emails using the rights management server. And especially we have no end-to-end encryption with non-M365 recipients because they will download these emails from a web server. Yeah, so potentially Microsoft could get access to these emails. And we should be careful because there's the US Cloud Act, which will enforce Microsoft to reveal these emails to government authorities. So be careful with that. So the other use case is authentication. Authentication in Entra ID can be password-based, MFA, FIDO, SAML. There are many authentication features supported, but one very good and very important authentication mechanisms is the certificate-based authentication, CBA. It provides very high security. You can use it for login to M365. It offers single sign-on, and it helps to fulfill compliance requirements. Furthermore, it cannot only be used in Azure and Entra ID, it can be used as a universal login mechanism to many systems outside of Entra ID and outside of Azure. So we need certificates for this. So we need certificates to provide SMIME end-to-end encryption and SMIME signature. And we need certificates to provide user authentication. And the user wants to have this feature on all his devices. So the challenge here is that we need a solution that automatically enrolls these certificates and provides these certificates to all the user devices. And this is what we offer with certEntra. So certEntra integrates into Azure, Intune, and Entra ID, and it connects with your preferred CA. And the CA will issue the certificates for the Entra ID users. So what certEntra does is the automated enrollment, renewal, publishing, revocation, and notification about digital certificates. This is the job of certEntra. And the certificates will be issued for Entra ID users, and we can optionally also enroll certificates for shared mailboxes. These certificates are then automatically pushed to the devices that are managed by Intune. So devices that are covered are all the devices that Intune can manage. So it's Windows, Android, iOS, Mac OS, whatever. And we can also support all the popular email clients like Outlook, Outlook on the web, mobile Outlook, native iOS Mail, Apple Mail, and whatever. So solution is basically independent from the email client. So how does it work? In this picture, we have all the Azure services that are involved, and we have certEntra in the middle. So what happens? When certEntra starts the auto-enrollment, it will get the users from an enrollment group in Entra ID. So, and for each user, it will check if the user already has a valid certificate. If not, it will create a key pair, and it will send the public key in a certificate request to the CA. The CA will then issue the certificate, return the certificate to certEntra. Then certEntra will archive the private key and the certificate. The key archival is done by encrypting the private key of the user with a key recovery agent public key. So we need a KRA, key recovery agent, KRA certificate to do that. This KRA certificate and private key can either reside within certEntra in the Windows Certificate Store, or you could use your key vault to generate and to generate the key of the KRA and to perform the cryptographic operations. So the recovery key can reside inside key vault. This can be a software key, or it can be a hardware key, a HSM protected key in key vault. So this is one option. So in order to push the key to the device, it has to be recovered, and it has to be then protected in a PFX. And this PFX file is pushed to Intune. And when the device wants to perform a synchronization with Intune, the PFX is pushed in an encrypted form to the devices of the user. This is done with the help of the Intune certificate connector. There are different types of certificate connectors. In this scenario, we use the PKCS import connector in order to push PFXs to devices. So, what else can we do? We can, in order to encrypt to your partner, the certificate has to be made available. So we can do this by publishing the certificate in the global address list in Exchange Online. So this is one way. Or the other way is to publish the certificate in the Secardio certbox. This is another component in our TopKey platform that we can also provide for you. I will explain this on the next slide in more detail, what happens here. So what you can do then is you can use certEntra for the management, basic management of these certificates. And you can also optionally offer a self-service for your users. We can see this in the next slides, how this works. So certificate publishing. So I told you, you can automatically publish certificates in the Exchange Online GAL. That means if a user wants to encrypt to an internal partner inside the company, he can easily do that because Outlook automatically retrieves the certificates, and so the user can encrypt out of the box to this partner. So, but this is limited to internal encryption inside your organization. If you want to encrypt to outside partners, we have the Secardio certbox. The certbox lets your external partner retrieve your certificate via LDAP or HTTP, so that the external user can perform an end-to-end encryption to the internal user. In the other direction, the internal user, Outlook, will do the job. The internal user just enters the external email address, and Outlook will initiate an LDAP search to the certbox. The certbox will search in the internet, connected internet repositories for the external partner certificate, return it to Outlook, and Outlook can then easily encrypt. The user has nothing to do with this. He has only to enter the email address, that's it. The cert box will search in more than 120 PKI directories. We will find millions of certificates there. The external partner has also the option to upload the certificate to the cert box, and the cert box is also able to issue ad hoc certificates to users that don't have a certificate. So you could perform an end-to-end encryption with partners that even don't have a certificate. So this is certificate publishing in certEntra that makes life easy for end-to-end encryption. Then we have certificate revocation. A certificate is automatically revoked if the account of this user has been deleted, or if name or address attributes have changed that are inside of the certificate. So that means if the first name has changed, or if the email address has changed, the certificate will be revoked and you will get a new certificate automatically with the new address attributes. The certificate will also be revoked when the user is removed from the enrollment group. Yeah, in addition to this automatic revocation, a user certificate can manually be revoked by the certEntra administrator or by the user himself using the optional self-service. When doing the manual revocation, you can select the reason code, why is the certificate been revoked, and a textual description, what happened. Notifications can be configured, so you can select who will get these emails, the user or the operator, and you can easily edit the text. You can also use placeholders, variables that are then replaced when the email is being sent from certEntra. We support a couple of CA backends, especially we have connections with public CAs that issue trusted SMIME certificates, but we have also a connector for your Microsoft CA for ADCS. Yeah, then you will have to configure certificate templates. Perhaps you know about this structure in Active Directory. We don't have an Active Directory here, so what we do here is we configure and store these certificate templates in the database. So we define enrollment groups, the CA, the certificate product. We can configure subject distinguished name and SAN attributes. We can configure the cryptography that has to be used, the certificate handling, and the key usage and the extended key usage. So this is very similar to that what you know from Active Directory templates. And we also support subject modification rules. So you can configure how the common name will be built from first name, surname, or whatever. Yeah, to give you an idea how it looks like, this is a screenshot of the web configurator. So there are a couple of tabs in the web configurator. So we have the general tab where you configure database, email, Azure parameters, key recovery agent. Then we have the services tab, which is opened here. Configuration of the backend CAs, templates, then what we will see later, the certificate search page, and some advanced options. So in the certificates page, you can search easily for certificates, and then you have different options. For example, you can push the certificate again to the Intune devices explicitly if this is required. You can revoke the certificate, or you can download the certificate and the private key. By selecting a certificate, you can open the certificate viewer that shows you the details, the contents of the certificate. general parameters like serial number, validation, and so on. Subject information about the distinguished name of the owner, subject alternative name, attributes, and the issuers, the CA that issued that certificate. Yeah, this was about the certEntra web GUI, and now also a very important question is how can you deploy this software? The software will run on a Windows server, on a Windows virtual machine typically, and there are two basic ways to deploy the software. So one alternative is to select it from the Azure Marketplace. So if you go to the Azure Marketplace, enter and search for certEntra, then this screen will open. And there you can press the Create and Deploy button and follow the steps in our deployment guide. We have a deployment guide in our web, and it describes all the steps that you have performed in order to configure your virtual machine. So the virtual machine is created in this scenario, and also key vault will be created, app registration will be performed, and so on and so on. And all this is governed by a Microsoft ARM template. So you start from scratch, nothing is there, and at the end you have a virtual machine inside your Azure environment, and on that virtual machine, certEntra will run with all the connections to Key Vault, to Intune, to Entra ID, and whatever. The other option for deployment is a manual deployment. So if you have an existing virtual machine, you can simply perform the setup.exe. The virtual machine can be run in Azure, or it can also be run on premises. If you run it on premises, of course, the machine will have to have the connections with all these Azure services that are used by certEntra. Yeah, at the end of the deployment, you will need a license to run certEntra. And as with all our other products, we have a standard edition that will fulfill typical requirements, and we have an enterprise edition that has more features like multi-CA, multi-template, user self-service, and some other features more. Yeah, I think, and then another important question is, because certEntra will need a database. Also here you have two options. You can use a database that is managed by Microsoft. Two options we have here. We have the Azure SQL, so this is the Microsoft stuff, or you can use a managed MySQL server. The other option is to run the database on your own, a self-hosted database. So here we support Microsoft SQL Server or MySQL database. If you are an existing customer and already have products from us with an existing database, you can use that existing database and just connect certEntra with that database. So that is possible to use a common database, but it is also possible to set up a new separated database with these different models that I explained before. So all the certificates and all the private keys are stored in the certificate database, and private keys are encrypted with the KRA certificates. Yeah, I think we've gone through everything. I just want to summarize up what we discussed. So certEntra provides automatic enrollment and renewal for MIME or authentication certificates for Entra ID users, and we connect with public or private CAs. The private keys are encrypted with key recovery agents in order to be archived for a long term. Certificates can be automatically revoked from modified or removed users. Certificates can automatically be published to the Exchange Online GAL or to the Secardio cert box in order to enable a seamless end-to-end encryption. certEntra also supports the enrollment of certificates for shared mailboxes and the provisioning of these certificates to the authorized users so that the authorized users have these certificates on their devices. Then we have basic certificate management functions. I've shown this before. And we have the option to use and customize email notifications. And if required, the software can also be connected with multiple backend CAs for different templates, for example. And when we talk about the KRA certificates, they can be either stored locally in your certificate store on the machine, or it can be stored securely in the key vault, especially high security when using a hardware key protected by HSM in the key vault. Yeah, and optionally, we have the mechanism of user self-service that you can provide to your users. Okay, I think that was it for today. Thank you very much for your attention.